Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. It is lecture 15, and congratulations to all of you for finishing up your project 2. Hopefully you've submitted P2 Gold. If you haven't, you have less than 24 hours for a submission within the late period. Make sure that you always get your projects submitted, whatever it takes. We can give you some points, even if we can't give you all of them. All right. The easiest way to get a poor grade in this course is to forget to turn things in. So make sure you do that, even with that late penalty. If you look at where we are, we've launched a few assignments, and one of those is going to be the P2 postmortem. Just like your P1 postmortem, it's a short, easy essay assignment in which you're going to be able to reflect on your P2 project. Think a little bit about Unity, compare it to Unreal Engine, and hopefully enjoy that process. We've also launched Culture 4, which we will be watching a film for on Wednesday. Did anyone check out what that film is? No? It is Black Mirror. Okay, Black Mirror, San Junipero. This is one of the more difficult to understand Black Mirror episodes, but it's a very much a treasured one. Has a lot of interesting things to say about the nature of virtual reality and how it intersects with the afterlife, okay, and retirement and old age and stuff like that. So I hope you'll join us in person for that particular viewing, because watching San Junipero yourself is kind of difficult, and you might not enjoy it nearly as much. And we can kind of set things up for you in person in a way that's going to help you enjoy that film. And also talking about it afterward is really going to help you appreciate it. Question?
The screens aren't.
Nice. Thank you. All right, so everyone watching from home is fine, but people in person can't see the screen. Okay, I think you're good now. Before we get to today's topic, which is going to be a pretty fun one, it's going to be XR and education. We're going to show you a lot of really cool, fun things. We have for you an app called Toko Toko. I want to quickly point out, though, you now have until Monday. You've got about 5 days to decide who you want your final project teammates to be. And I think I kind of lied here. I think this team size for Project 3 is not going to be 4 to 5 people. I think it's going to be 3 to 4 people, okay? And so let me fix that really quickly. Where is that sucker? P2 gold spike, P3 gold spike. Right here, okay? So, 3 to 4. Why is it showing the wrong thing? Am I looking at the wrong? Oh, that's 494. Okay. Leave page. Yep. It's going to be a 3 to 4 person project. So hopefully that doesn't mess up anyone's plans. Okay, sweet. And I also want to change it on the instructor version of the schedule so I don't accidentally mess it up later. Okay, cool. Okay, so make sure that you set up your team if you want to. It's not going to be a super long project, but it can be much more enjoyable or much less enjoyable depending on your team formation and whether you get lucky or you know who you want to work with or if you get unlucky. I want to show you a pretty cool application called Toko Toko. It reminds me a lot of Pikmin and Animal Crossing. It is an AR application for your mobile device that allows you to draw many different aspects of the game and affect gameplay by doing so. It is a game that was made in Japan. It's available on the App Store. It is a premium game. And if you don't know, this is like the death knell of any App Store app. Not even Nintendo, not even Mario could release a successful premium App Store application. Despite good reviews, it doesn't have that many ratings. It probably got very few downloads and installs, despite how impressive the technology and the charm of the game is. So I want to show you the trailer. What? Why is Stephen A. Smith here? Weird. Okay, that's just totally different video it showed. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look. This is the trailer for Toko Toko. Okay, so Toko Toko, very charming, kind of understated, subtle trailer. It has charming characters, but the main gameplay mechanic in this game is that you are meant to draw different things. In the trailer, you saw the human being draw like an instrument, and you saw the human being interacting with the characters with their pencil and stuff like that. This reminds me very much of a game called Drawn to Life. It was made by a company we've talked about in this class before. It was made by Fifth Cell, which is the same company that made Scribblenauts and then went bankrupt. It's so sad. This is a great company. In this game, you draw your own player character, and you draw the legs, you draw the arms, the torso, the face, and the game will animate these automatically and do whatever it takes to make it look pretty good. What's more, as you're platforming around this game, you are often asked to draw like some logs to cross a river or some clouds so you can platform up and get through a level. And it's quite fun. It's not an exceptional platformer by any means. It's a very generic platformer, actually. But just the fact that you can draw different platforms and really make it your own provides an immense amount of appeal. The game also was sometimes used in an educational kind of role, trying to get young people to get better at drawing, to develop a taste for drawing, which for many people is kind of the start of their artistic careers later down the line. I wish that I had been prompted more as a child to draw, because my goodness, would some decent drawing abilities be useful for me now? And I stink at drawing. I'm awful, okay? I really, really wish I'd gotten more of that knowledge when it was easier. I want to show you some gameplay footage of Toko Toko being played. This is a game, similar in vein to Drawn to Life. You get presented with scenarios and puzzles. These characters need you to do certain things, and what you draw is used in a kind of a fun, surprising way. So in this case, one of our characters has lost their face. I'm not sure how that happens. I haven't played the game. Hopefully there's a story explanation for this. But we need to draw a face for this little character. So it's going to have you draw on a piece of paper, like on an actual physical piece of paper. Okay? It then has you scan that physical piece of paper and what you've drawn, and it will ingest that image data, process it a bit, and then it will map it onto the face, texture map it. If you don't know what texture mapping is, you got to take that wonderful EECS 298 course. Oh my gosh. More advertising for 298. Imagine that. So we've drawn this cute little face. It looks like a dog face. Okay. And now we got to put it on his face. Now this is a pain in the butt, actually. you can see the user messes it up a few times. There you go. And that actually looks shockingly good, right? The face, the software was able to take this face that was drawn in very, real world kind of analog data. And it was able to convert it, kind of chop it out. It was able to get rid of the background mostly. And then it was able to apply it properly to the face in the right location. So that's actually pretty impressive technology. The effect, I think, is pretty good. I would have drawn a much funnier face, like a Cyclops face, or something maybe that, I can't mention on an academic lecture. But in any case, once that character has the face that I drew, it endears me a lot more to that character. Suddenly I'm attached to the game. I've given them a crappy face. Now I have to take care of them, right? They're going to have a hard life. So I need to treat them well. So this is the kind of thing that you would give to children to kind of coax them into drawing and drawing more often and hopefully developing a taste for the art of drawing, which might turn into a genuine skill or field of study for them later. In any case, lots of puzzles like this. So I know almost nothing about this company, and I know almost nothing about their funding situation. I'm fairly certain they are a Japanese company, and that's about all I know, okay? But super, super cool product that they have. Just like Scribblenauts and just like Drawn to Life, with the right gameplay, I think you can get people to engage with and grow to love just about anything. And that's an important part of education. The way we design lectures, the way we design our topics, the way we guide students through them is very much to be entertaining. When it's done right, it's to get you hooked on a topic. I've always felt that, a good course design, a good lecture can either make a topic really great or it can make any topic really bad. And so this is kind of like that, okay? You're trying to make the act of drawing fun, not a chore, not stressful, surprising, engaging, all that good stuff. And we're going to talk more about that in just a sec, because today's topic, a high-level fun topic we're going to talk about is XR and education. If you want to work and make money in XR, we told you that niches are where XR really shines. Not in the big moonshots. The big moonshots have all failed. But the niches are where XR is genuinely valuable still to this day. We're going to talk about that more in just a bit. A reminder, when you're doing stuff in the Viz Studio, like you might do for Project 3, get these cables wound up and looking good, okay? Don't let it sag off the table like this, and certainly don't let it hit the ground like this. The problem is that people let it hit the ground, they then move over it a few times back and forth in their chair, and that kind of grinds up the cable. When the cable is shot, the whole headset is pretty much shot, okay? And these are not cheap headsets, so we got to be careful. I've got something fun to show you. It is not actually October, but I just want to impress upon you just how crappy the Nintendo Switch mobile hardware is. I can't remember if I showed this to you or not, but when I was porting Greek Tragedy to the Nintendo Switch, I got a nasty surprise. My publisher used their dev kit to port my game to the Switch they had just willy-nilly. And without any optimizations, look at this game. This is a low-poly game. I think the most computationally, graphically expensive thing in here is her hair, the main character's hair, which is very whooshy and kind of awesome, and the lights. And there are not many lights in the scene. There's like one flashlight that she's carrying. That's it. And that was able to bring a simple scene down to 13 frames per second. What is the average supposed to be for a game? Yes?
60.
60. You can get away with 30. Some games do that. But, 60 is ideal. For a headset, for a VR headset, what is it supposed to be? It better not be 60. You're going to make people puke at 60. We already talked about this.
120?
120 is really nice. 90 is a bit more common, okay? And so, Nintendo Switch game console, you wouldn't believe it because you look at Mario Odyssey, you look at Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, beautiful, gorgeous games, big games, very graphically impressive. All of these games are running on Nintendo Switch, which is basically 2017 mid-tier mobile hardware. It's optimized a little bit for game dev and gaming and rendering, not that much though. This iPhone in my pocket, which is so old, it's got cracks all over it from me dropping it all the time, is like, it blows it out of the water, okay? Not even a competition. So anyway, kind of crazy. So here's a big thing in game engine architecture, but I'll also share it with you. There's this tug of war. There's this fundamental clash of needs on a video game console. This console, does anyone know what a Nintendo Switch costs? If you want to buy a Nintendo Switch 1 today, how much are you going to pay for it? Yes?
$300, $350?
Yeah, like somewhere around $300, okay? How much would you pay today for a mediocre PC GPU? You'd probably pay like $400, $500, $600. You're starting to get somewhere. You're going to pay for a decent-ish GPU today. You're going to pay more than the entire Nintendo Switch console. And the Switch doesn't just have its own GPU. It has its own CPU. It has its own solid-state disk drive. It has its own custom controllers, which have their own vibrational technology and audio speakers inside of them, okay? And a gyro. This machine has custom OS software that Nintendo had to make. It has a really crazy setup where you can plug it into a dock. It has a dock system, which is just an HDMI box. It has a Wi-Fi card in it. It has speakers in it. Oh my goodness. The only way that a game console can be $300 today is if the components inside are cheap, garbage components, generations old, okay? And yet, if you want to sell a video game console, you need the most beautiful graphics, the biggest games, the coolest characters, right? And so there's a tug of war between let's make the console as cheap as possible and underpowered as possible. And on the other end, we need to have the best graphics, the best gameplay, the most innovative, new, crazy game designs. And in the middle of this tug of war, getting pulled apart, ripped at the seams, is the first-party game development studios, the internal Nintendo development teams, or the internal Sony teams like Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch, Sony Santa Monica, the God of War team. And at these internal first-party teams, you will find the best engineers on the entire planet, the best artists on the planet, the best game devs on the planet. Why? Because only the best engineers in the whole world are able to get the incredible first-party games, the Breath of the Wild, the Uncharted games, to run on a potato, okay? And so if you ever find yourself in the games industry working at one of these studios, you will be surrounded by the best of the best, and you're going to learn a lot, okay? That's one of the reasons people want to work in game dev. It's really something. It's crazy, okay? Game dev is hardcore, but it's hardcore in many of the best ways, and it's hardcore in some not so pleasant ways. But really, game dev is whatever you want it to be. There are studios like Mojang that just kind of chill and they work on their low poly game, and it's an awesome game. They're not super stressed out. The pay is good. Game is consistent. Not very scary place to be. There are places like Naughty Dog where you're going to work your ass off. You're going to be surrounded by the best of the best. You're going to become a superhuman, and you're going to pay for it. Okay? and you're probably later you're going to bolt to a more friendly studio. Fortunately, if you've got Naughty Dog on your resume, yeah, you can kind of pick where you want to go. Okay, at least that's what I understand. Okay, Culture 4, like I said earlier, is Black Mirror, San Junipero. So I hope you'll join us for that film because it's a tough one to digest alone. Let's talk about one of my favorite topics, education. It's a topic I care about so much, I gave up a very large San Francisco Bay Area salary to come back to Midwest and teach it. My students usually graduate and they immediately make more money than I do. That's quite something, isn't it? Yeah, you better like this job, okay? I'll tell you that. You better like it. All right. Education. It's a big deal. And games and education and XR and education have been like this for a long time. If you've taken EECS 494, have any of you taken 494? Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Okay? You're racking up the stickers. You're going to have the whole set soon. If you've taken EECS 494, you already know that game development is teaching. So much of the way a game is designed is about teaching you how to play it and exposing you to new ideas and giving you time to practice with those new ideas before escalating and combining the ideas to discover new things about them and new subtleties and new nuances. The more you learn in a game, the more engaging that game is. Same thing with a course, okay? But beyond that, okay, the industry of education is a very, very big place to be with XR and with game dev. There's a lot of money in it. There's a lot of people who need it. A while ago, early in the semester, I talked about game engines. Game engines help you solve some questions about the nature of reality. What is your reality made of? Where and how will you relate things to each other? And then the how is how will things work? How will things interact with each other? Stuff like that. One really important question behind creating realities is the why. And this comes from your purpose and your life experience. What do you want to achieve and what do you know? Why do you want to achieve it? Education is one of those the why topics. On Project 3, you might choose to target an educational outcome or application of XR. You might choose a different one. And we're going to start to explore some of these the why topics soon. This is the start of that. So the what, the where, the how. You're getting pretty good at these, but very soon on Project 3, what will really matter is the why. Why do you choose to use XR? What are you choosing to use it for? So use cases for XR, we've talked about the fact that there are quite a lot of them, from fitness to socialization to commerce. Training, however, is a really, really big one. Education. And so we're going to talk about that today. The why. XR and education. We're going to talk later about XR and business. And we'll end the course by talking about XR and artwork. Okay? Creative expression. Pretty fun topics. I think you'll enjoy them. So let's talk about education. And one of the first things to know about education is that it is massive. In fact, I think you already have an intuitive sense for this. Okay? The University of Michigan is not a cheap place to attend. And especially if you are not a resident of Michigan, if you are an out-of-state student, if you are a foreign student, then you know, oh my goodness, the money flowing through education is crazy, especially in the United States, all right? A headline I saw a couple of years ago, 2022, the governor of the state of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, signed a $22.2 billion budget for Michigan's K-12 schools, colleges, and universities, okay? And believe it or not, that's way down from what it used to be, okay? The state used to provide a lot more of the university's budget than it currently does. I think I heard it provides something like 10% of the university annual budget. That's it, okay? It used to be way more. The state budget in 2022 was $84 billion. In other words, the governor is allocating, and the legislature is allocating about 25% of the state of Michigan's revenue to education. That is insane. That is crazy. A massive chunk of a big pie. Okay? If you look at companies that are kind of famously tied to education, you may have heard the term or the word scholastic before, the name scholastic. I think I grew up with a lot of their books and materials and maybe some of their online website stuff. They are a company that is worth billions of dollars, $1.14 billion just for education, and that's just one company, a company that I don't think is even that big anymore, okay? If you look at their financials, every quarter they are bringing in revenues of millions of dollars, $500,000. Now, that's a lot of revenue, but their profit is much smaller than that, okay? They have expenses, and so their actual profit, their income is $52.1 million. That's still a nice chunk of change, okay, for teaching people, for helping teach people. The University of Michigan, do you know how big our endowment is? You know what an endowment is?
It's like a big amount of money that you invest in various tech funds to get more money.
Yeah. You have an endowment. That means you got a big chunk of cash. And if you don't invest, if you haven't looked into investing yet, well, first of all, as soon as you have a real job, your first real job, you'd better look at investing. This is no longer a should do, this is a requirement, okay? Trust me on this one. If you do invest early, you're going to be golden. If you don't invest in early, you're going to feel the cost of housing. You're going to feel all the financial difficulties that everyone's struggling with. You're going to feel it tenfold. Basically, an endowment is a big chunk of cash that you invest, and then you use the proceeds, the interest, the returns from that investment, which might be tech companies. Hopefully, it's more diversified than that, because the tech sector, like any sector, might take a big dump, okay, and might recover or might not recover. But basically, the University of Michigan has $17 billion just sitting there, okay? It's in the markets. It's been invested, so it goes up, it goes down. The market, on average, if it's well diversified, returns about 7% inflation adjusted per year historically. And that's 7% of $17 billion. It's not too bad, okay? Can you tell me what 10% of $1 billion is? That's the not inflation adjusted number. What is that? 10% of 1.7 of 17 billion. Just move the decimal point. What is it?
1.7 billion.
University of Michigan might have up to $1.7 billion of money that just poofs out of nowhere for free that they can use for anything. Well, not anything, because some of that money is actually locked down by the people who donated it. So I actually have a fund of about 10 grand. That is the Daniel Kortemeyer Game Development Fund. Daniel's family, in memorial to Daniel, right? Remember, Daniel created the Neuro VR lab, and he passed away. His family donated $10,000 to the University of Michigan, and that fund, that endowment, is available for us to spend. I don't think it's big enough to generate much in the way of interest, so we don't really worry about interest. But that's the kind of thing. It's specifically earmarked for game development on the University of Michigan campus. Okay, so I can't use that to go make a programming languages course. I have to use it for game development stuff. Okay, so a lot of the endowment is locked down to different use cases and applications, but you can kind of think of it as being a big pot of cash that over time, because it's invested, generates more money for free for the university to spend on scholarships or whatever, and stuff like that. Okay, so anyway, education is a big deal. If you think about it, this should be really obvious. Human beings in the United States, I think the average lifespan is like approaching 80 years old. It can take, how old are you? Can I ask? You want to answer? You don't have to answer.
21.
21, okay. 21, and you're almost done with your college career, right? Anyone else?
21.
21. Okay, we got a lot of people who just learned to drink. Okay, no, maybe not. All right, but you should have just learned to drink. I'm 33, and I started seriously working, I think, at 23, 24 or so. I just looked it up last night. I started investing seriously at 24. So that's probably when I had my main job, or 2016, 2017, teaching here. And it takes over a quarter of a human being's lifetime to get them trained up and get them effective for modern jobs. That is brutal. That is absolutely insane, okay? If you could shrink that even a tiny bit, you would make a wild difference to the productivity of society. You would also dramatically improve the finances of the students, because every one of those 20 years, that student is an expensive person, okay? If we can shorten this time that it takes to train someone, or alternatively, if we can keep the time the same, but make them even more productive, then that is completely insane, completely massive. One of the things the USA gets a lot of credit for with economists is that its graduates, its workers tend to be pretty efficient, productive compared to a lot of other peer countries. And we need to make that even more productive. I'm going to remind you of this very short clip. I'm going to play it for, I think, the third time this semester. But I want you to imagine a world, imagine 2030, AI goes ham and the singularity occurs and our technology as a result expands and goes crazy. Suddenly we have neural interlinks and we have the ability to very selectively put information into your mind. How would that change the economy? How would that change our ability to learn and teach? Let's take a look at what the Matrix thinks about that.
Supposed to start with this racial first. Let's make it okay. Let's do something fun. How about combat training? Jiu-jitsu. I'm going to learn jiu-jitsu. Yeah, my kid likes it. How about some more? Hell yes. Hell yeah. Straight. I know Kung Fu. Show me.
This is a sparring program, similar to the program reality Matrix. It has the same basic rules, like gravity. What you must learn is that these rules are no different than the rules of the computer system. Some of them can be bent. Others can be broken. Understand? Then hit me if you can.
So as a teacher myself, I see this scene and I, in some ways, see nirvana. I see the holy grail of teaching. Teaching is, in many ways, this laborious, painful process. Students suffer. Faculty suffer trying to deliver information, get students' mental models built up, which is not a comfortable thing for your brain. And it's very frustrating, right? I was talking with Stephanie O'Malley, who's the assistant director of the Doucette Center. She teaches, and she's like, man, Austin, like you got to have a ton of patience to teach, and you got to have a ton of patience to learn. And I completely agree. And that's why a lot of people just don't learn the things they should, and they don't engage. In this video, Neo doesn't just learn a lot of stuff quickly, but he actually has a very unusual reaction to learning, right? So he learns, he gets this jolt, and he comes out of it and says, oh my God, what was that? And Tank asks him, you want some more? And how does he respond? He doesn't just say yes, he says, what does he say? What does he say? He doesn't just say yes, he says, yes, hell yes, right? It's like, ooh, I want another hit of that, okay? He is into it. It was painful and exhausting, but ooh-wee, right? It felt good. I want some more. Give me some more. And then Tank says, right, Morpheus walks out, says, all right, how's he doing? How's the new trainee doing? And Tank says, how long has he been at it?
10 hours.
10 hours straight. He's a machine, okay? And that's quite a compliment. And this is the kind of thing that would absolutely revolutionize teaching. You know, I'd probably be out of the job. But I've always thought that computer scientists have kind of a weird job, because our job is to automate ourselves out of existence. If you think about it, we build tools, and then hopefully we stay employed because we built the first tool, and now we don't have to do that job anymore. And so now we're going to build the next tool so that we got rid of that job, and we're just going to keep automating stuff. And, you know, maybe it's a bit scary as we continue to automate stuff away. But I've always felt that programming is kind of a selfless job in that way. Like we're kind of working toward our own obsolescence, ideally for the good of humanity. So everyone can save some money and get access to good new stuff faster, more efficiently, not have to pay those engineering salaries. Hopefully we'll find something else to do. That's the key part. But it's just amazing. There's some scary implications as well. If you can put good information into someone's head, well, can you put bad information? What is bad information? Could you release a mind virus? Do those already exist? I don't know. It's interesting to think about, though. But when you see that Neo has been going for 10 hours straight, he's a machine. Well, that actually already exists. Do you believe me? Here's the thing. Students will never grind a general chemistry textbook for 10 hours straight. But you know what a lot of humans and a lot of engineers have and will grind for 10 hours straight? A video game. And I'm thinking Civilization 5. Has anyone played Civ? One more turn, okay? I can't stop playing. Gandhi's about to get the nukes. I have to stop him. Okay? In one more turn, I'm completing Oxford University. Okay? I am completing, what's a really cool one? The Forbidden City in China. And I'm going to get this incredible bonus to my army, and my civilization is going to grow faster. I didn't even know China had a Forbidden City, but now I know, and I'm looking it up, and it's awesome, right? It's actually kind of shocking how much Civilization 5 kind of teaches you about the basics of geopolitics and how civilizations have advanced, and what's important to their advancement. Access to resources, access to trade routes, the discovery of trading partners, other civilizations, access to seafaring technology is a wild bonus, access to wildlife, horses, okay, minerals, stuff like that is a huge boon to civilizations. And you get all of that knowledge from playing a game, grinding it 10 hours a day, and you like it. It's absolutely incredible, okay? So a question, why is education so expensive? Why do we really need professors? Do we need universities, right? Why do we need all these expensive tools? Why can't we just plug ourselves in and use some electricity to generate the knowledge and the mental models we need inside of our skull, okay? Well, we do have means of educating today. We've got textbooks, often very expensive. They're also slow. They're kind of crappy, okay? They can't really put you into a situation. You never really hear about people grinding textbooks the way that they grind video games, okay? Why don't people just grind these textbooks? Have you ever tried? How did it go? Badly, okay? You know why professors exist? All of the knowledge in these books is out there. It's free. It's on the public internet. But the knowledge isn't necessarily ordered very efficiently, so it's a bit unpleasant to consume. And also, in my opinion, probably the major purpose of an instructor is not to deliver knowledge, but to hold you to the acquisition of knowledge. To hold some cheese and to hold a dagger above your head, okay? The reward and the punishment, okay? The carrot and the stick. That is what I think a big part of my job is. There is a deadline for P2 Gold. It is today. If you don't hit it, you fail. And that could mean burning 10 grand, okay? That could mean remaining here at Michigan. You don't get that job you were after. You flunk out of your internship, the offer's rescinded, okay? Providing consequence is a very big part of getting human beings to do unpleasant things. And the knowledge acquisition process, as sad as it is, it's often unpleasant. Part of our job is to make it as pleasant as possible without sacrificing educational outcomes. But people don't grind these wonderful textbooks. They have a lot of great properties to them, but being engaging is not one of those properties. These things often not very easy to digest or consume. So when it comes to education, the missing ingredient today is engagement. And if you look at what a lot of research in academics is, a lot of academics are studying games. They're studying VR. We have an entire department, the Office of Academic Innovation. We have a multi-million-dollar VR, XR initiative here at the University of Michigan campus. And its goal is to try and figure out how to make educational outcomes better, make the learning process more efficient, more pleasant, more engaging, stickier, by using game dev and using technologies, okay, like VR. So I got a question for you. I actually got my start as a reader, not in the world of books, but in the world of games. No real surprise. I was kind of addicted to games when I was younger. And that had some very real downsides, okay? But one of the following games taught me to read. And I want to ask you which educational game this was. Okay? Was it Reader Rabbit? This is a classic, okay? A lot of people in my age know Reader Rabbit. It's kind of a reading-based collection of mini-games. Often it has a story and a plot and cool characters as well. It's pretty good stuff. Was it Jumpstart First Grade Reading? Was it Reading Blaster? You might have heard of Math Blaster, the famous educational math game. Well, this is its reading-based cousin. So, was it one of these games that taught me to read? Or was it Pokemon Red, Gotta Catch 'Em All, a game so full of text, it's like reading a novel? Which game taught me to read? It feels to me like one of these is not like the other.
Was it Pokemon?
I still have memories of my experience with Pokemon. It was so cool. You had these really awesome characters. You could collect them. You could get them to fight. And I remembered being at a Christmas party with my extended family all around me. And I'm playing Pokemon, and I see a crazy new Pokemon, but I have no idea what its name is. I can't read. I've gotten through big portions of the game, but I can't read. And so I'm looking at it, and I take it over to my uncle, And I show it to my uncle. Hey, what is the name of the Pokemon? What's the name? What does this say? What does this text say? And he pronounces Gyarados? Gyarados? Like, oh, Gyarados. Okay, Gyarados. One of the coolest Pokemon ever. All right? And I started to learn to sound things out. I started to learn how to pronounce these Pokemon names, and I would just read every day playing Pokemon. And if you grew up in my generation, I'm kind of a late millennial, not too far from being a Zoomer, but kind of an old millennial. Wait, no, a young millennial. Is that right? And you played Pokemon and you learned to read. You know why? Because you had to learn to read in order to play Pokemon. It was worth it. The carrot and the stick were very powerful. The carrot is big and juicy as could be. Okay? And it was fun. It was fun as heck. All right? It was worth it. So I also got a lot of my early mathematics and economics and business and finance knowledge from video games, believe it or not. Okay, I'm kind of invested in games, if you couldn't tell. And so, was it Magnificent Maths, a game so obscure I couldn't even find a screenshot of it? I have no idea what this game looks like. Or was it maybe Zoombini's Logical Journey? Did you play Zoombini's?
No.
You heard about it?
No. Can I guess what it's going to be? The final game?
You can.
RuneScape.
RuneScape? That's a pretty good guess. RuneScape was not launched until I was like in double-digit age. So, yeah.
It's gotta be Zoombini's.
Gotta be Zoombini's?
Absolutely.
For a lot of people in my generation, it was. Apparently, this game is awesome.
It's very good.
Did you play it? Yeah.
They had it on the computers at the local library.
Really?
Here in Ann Arbor, yeah.
Oh, that's sick. What a great library we have.
I know, they were there until they switched them all with iPads.
What?
Yeah.
It's all iPads.
It's all iPads now.
How are people going to like learn about a file system and stuff? That stinks.
I didn't learn about a file system on the computer at the library. I just had the games folder.
All right. Well,
and there was a bunch of games.
Sweet. Okay. I don't even know if iPads and iOS have like a concept of folders.
Oh, they have to.
Usually it's just like you touch the app and then the app shows you the files you have, you know? Yes.
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Was it Math Missions K through 2 or was it Roller Coaster Tycoon? A game in which you get to design your very own theme park. Oh my goodness, this has got to be every kid's dream. I have a story from Roller Coaster Tycoon as well. It's a very visceral story. It was kind of a painful story. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe my luck when I was trying to build a roller coaster and I didn't have enough money. I'm thinking, oh no, I don't have any money. I could wait. I could wait for an hour to build up the profit necessary to reinvest in a new coaster. But I'm looking through the menus and I click on a menu that has some like gold on it, okay? It has some like coins as the icon. So I click on it and I see a bunch of numbers and a bunch of them are red because I've been spending all my money and I'm out of money. But in the corner, I see this number. It says 0, but there's this little up and there's this little down arrow next to it. And I start clicking the up arrow. I have no idea what this number even is. I click the up arrow a few times and it goes $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. And I look at my cash in the bank and suddenly, oh my gosh, I have $3,000. And I keep clicking. Pretty soon I have 50 grand that I spawned out of nowhere. Thinking, oh my goodness, now I can build everything I want. I can build my roller coaster. I can build 3 new roller coasters. It's incredible. 50 grand, like nothing. And I get my 50 grand and I'm building, and then something starts to happen. Suddenly, I see that at the start of the next month, I have negative money. I have a big negative money. I'm $1 grand in the hole. I've never had negative money in Roller Coaster Tycoon. And I think the game tells me that if this happens for 3 more months, the park gets shut down and the game ends. I'm like, oh shoot, okay, this is weird. And I look in my finances and I see that there's a new line item. And it says, let me spell it out, sound it out. Never heard this word before. interest payments. Oh shit. What did I just discover? Debt. I just discovered that I had taken out a loan. I didn't even know that was possible. I didn't know that was a thing. I'm just a little kid, okay? I barely knew what a bank was. And so I discover the benefits and drawbacks to financing things, using debt as an instrument to reinvest. And unfortunately for me, the investments I made weren't paying back the interest that I had to pay, the loan that I'd taken out. It was bad news for me. And I had to then work very hard to pay down that debt to improve my finances. And that was a crazy concept for someone my age to be learning. And I learned that very viscerally through Roller Coaster Tycoon. In fact, it was scarred into my brain. I never forgot that. And today, I'm very sensitive to debt. It is something that has been really useful to me in my finances personally. I'm very grateful to Roller Coaster Tycoon and the God developer who made the game, Chris Sawyer, writing the whole game in assembly like it was nothing. Okay? What a champion. Man, they don't make programmers like that. I'm not that level of programmer. I don't think I'll ever be. What about astronomy? Astronomy, the order of the planets, the nature and characteristics of the planets. I never really cared about any of that. Jupiter is a long way away from me after all, and I don't think I've ever really seen it in person. It's so far away, despite being so big, it's hard to see. But, if you find yourself doing a quiz on the planets one day, you might be benefited if you happen to remember a certain boss battle that is actually impossible to forget the first time it happens. Back in the day, there was a very big game coming out, a big game called Final Fantasy VII. And this game has a particular move that happens in a particular final boss battle with Sephiroth, where he is going to call in a meteor from outside the solar system to blow up Earth. And the way he's going to do this is going to actually reveal a lot about how our solar system actually functions. A shocking amount, actually. I want you to take a look at this damn near 5-minute long singular attack from Sephiroth and take note of all of the astronomical properties and facts it uses. It's quite epic.
I started a business to keep close and Chase has supported me from the beginning.
This attack destroys Pluto, but it's actually programmed to deal 90% of each party member's maximum HP. So it failed to defeat a single party member. That's how stacked your party becomes by the end of this game. This attack is really interesting. You hope it doesn't run multiple times because you'll have to watch this thing multiple times. You better just go make a sandwich while you watch it the second time. But this attack has a lot going for it. A lot of these equations, you know you're in trouble when the math starts to show up. And a lot of these are actual equations. I think one of these is the Drake equation, which you will learn if you take the rocket science or the aliens class here at University of Michigan. You'll learn about that. If you didn't know, like, this is the Milky Way. This is what our galaxy looks like. It is a spiral with a big black hole at the center. If you didn't know, Pluto is the furthest out from in our solar system, and that people don't consider it important anymore. It's not a planet, so it gets blown up. The rings of Saturn, if you ever wondered what they are, you get to see what they are. It is a bunch of meteorites and bits of ice. So the rings of Saturn get destroyed by Sephiroth's supernova attack. By the way, shout-outs to Uranus, which is spared from all of this, apparently, and doesn't get mentioned at all. Jupiter. If you knew this was a big planet, you might not have known that it is a gas giant. Now, this is a little bit misleading because Jupiter has a core, like a solid core, but it gets the main idea of Jupiter across. This is a gaseous planet, okay? And so it goes through the middle of it, and then, of course, it explodes. We then see our supernova attack go into the sun. Do you know how the solar system will eventually end?
What the sun expand?
Yes, and that's called a red dwarf, okay? The sun is eventually going to start to run out of energy, and as a result, it's going to start to expand. It's going to expand so much that it will consume the planet. It will consume planet Earth, okay? And by the way, it'll eventually expand and then collapse on itself. Do you know what that's called when a star dies? It explodes?
A supernova.
A supernova. Hey, imagine that, right? So the sun starts expanding, and if you didn't know the order of the planets, this is going to help you. Mercury is the first one to bite the dust. Then Venus bites the dust, and then after that, we get confirmation that Final Fantasy VII takes place on Earth, which is really fun. Then we get to see this epic shot of it inching closer to the party. Crazy. What a great attack. This is wild, okay? The amount of effort going into a single attack for a single fight on the PlayStation of all consoles was just outrageous. But people don't forget this stuff. And if you're on a quiz and you get to the question where you need to order the planets, nearest to furthest from the sun, oh, you're going to be thinking about this fight. Okay, wait a second. Wait, what did Sephiroth blow up first? So, sorry, Professor. Wait, I know this teacher. Let me think about Sephiroth. Yes, Sephiroth blew up Pluto first. So I know Pluto is way out here. And your teacher's going to be like, what on earth are you talking about? Who is this? Okay. What about, I don't know, the progression of an epidemic or a pandemic? All right. Have you ever heard of a game called Plague Inc.? Okay. Plague Inc. I want to show you a trailer. And then we're going to talk about it. I'm going to show you the trailer. Then we're going to take our 5-minute break, let you soak in it a little bit. But watch this trailer carefully, because I'll tell you what, this game, Plague Inc., blew up and became a massive success years before the COVID-19 pandemic struck the planet. Okay, let's take a look.
Commencing autopsy screen. Time 21:04. 27-year-old female infected with unknown pathogen. Blood analysis indicates virus. Provisional date is 12. deceased had traveled in China before returning home 2 weeks ago. That must have been pre-quarantine. Unknown if had contact with livestock, but I can definitely see evidence of insect bites. Deceased had reported coughing and sneezing with a high fever. Times they were nasty rash, some abscesses around the abdominal cavity. Clear signs of immune suppression. Cause of death appears to be catastrophic organ failure. Findings match reports coming out of China. This is highly concerning. The disease may still be infectious. I'm halting the autopsy in order to notify the authorities. Request a full lockdown of this facility, effective immediately.
This game, Plague Inc., was never seen as an educational game. Never. It was always, first and foremost, seen as a high-quality game. Before anyone started applying an educational label to it, it was already entertaining and educating thousands, and I think actually millions these days, of fans. So I want you to reflect on that just a little bit, okay? And how many of you have played Plague Inc.? Okay, I'm going to ask you a little bit about this game and how it works, and maybe what you learned about it, what you noticed about it just by playing, when we come back in 5 minutes, okay? I'm going to turn the music on, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. Let's listen to some RuneScape music. Okay. All right. All right. Okay, so for people who are here in person, I want you to know this was not my shilling, all right? Someone else put this up. And it makes me really happy, right? Because my courses are my babies. I don't really make a ton of video games. I did make Greek Tragedy. It takes me a long time to make games. My courses are the games that I'm making. They are made in the kind of way that you would make a good game. And they have a lot of the features you'd expect of a good game. And so it makes me happy that people are enjoying my babies. All right, so Plague Inc. Okay, for those of you who have played Plague Inc., I just have some questions, okay? And here's maybe one of the most fun questions in Plague Inc. In Plague Inc., your goal is to play as the plague. You're playing as some sort of disease or infection or a virus or parasite. Your goal is to evolve and infect everyone and then kill all of humanity, as a good plague does, okay? And so, my question for you, raise your hand if you've played Plague Inc. Okay, here's your question. What is the final boss of Plague Inc.? That one opponent that is such a jerk and is going to finish you off if you can't defeat him.
It's gotta be Greenland.
It's Greenland, okay? Greenland is the final boss of Plague Inc. Oh my goodness, and why?
You just there's no transportation there.
Yeah.
One port.
Yep. Okay, so here's the thing. Almost no one lives in Greenland. They have almost no way into Greenland. They are cold, so it's hard to move there and survive as a disease. And they have no flights, and they have like one port. And as soon as that thing is shut down, you are in big trouble. Animals are not going to fly over to Greenland. The ocean's too big. It's too cold. Okay? They're not going to swim to Greenland. If you cannot infect Greenland, then you will eventually burn out the rest of the human population. You'll kill them, or you will get killed off, and then with no remaining hosts, you're dead. Okay? This is the end state for many diseases. Okay? They simply run out of people to infect. And in Plague Inc., if you do not eliminate the entire planet, then the entire planet will respawn and replenish from Greenland. Okay? And you will fail. And so the final boss of Plague Inc. is Greenland, and for those reasons. Here's another question. What happens to you as a disease if right out of the gates you start murdering everyone? You invest immediately in organ failure, and you just start killing people very visibly from the word go. What happens?
They cure you like this.
Yeah, the moment you start killing people, you start causing headlines and panic, and you haven't infected very many people yet, but you're killing everyone that you infect, and as a result, the world has noticed you, and all the scientists of the world are now rushing a cure. They find one before you can do any huge sweeping damage, and you're dead. Okay, as a disease, you've just failed just like that. What is a better approach for a disease? Looking to spread widely. Yeah.
You try to infect, like, be as infectious as possible.
Yeah.
And then you start being deadly.
Bingo. You want to be as infectious as you can, but with mild symptoms. And then you try and mutate and you unleash chaos on everyone now that you've kind of infected the whole population. Now, this is not entirely realistic, but it does get across some very important ideas, right? If you are really destructive, like you're causing a lot of chaos, then you will get the world's attention very quickly. Ports will start to shut down immediately. Flights will be canceled. The doctors and scientists will drop everything to focus on you instead of other stuff. And so the better bet is to go for spread, okay? And actually, a disease that kills its host kind of has a tough time, okay? A disease like a virus, a parasite, doesn't succeed when it kills its hosts. Okay? This actually also kind of explains why diseases tend to become more tame over time. A virus, a parasite that accidentally kills its host, kills itself and doesn't get to replicate very effectively. Okay? And so, but also the way that a disease evolves over time is a big part of this game and a big part of how diseases affect populations over time. And so you can see that this game is not a perfect model for how pandemics work in the real world, but it is a pretty impressive model. There are a lot of accurate ideas here, or there are a lot of very real ideas that exist in a simplified state. And I think most importantly, this is not a game that feels like it's trying to teach you something. It doesn't feel educational. It doesn't have the stink of school, okay? It's just a fun game. It's very interesting. You have to experiment and learn and try different strategies. And you inevitably discover a lot of very real things about how pandemics and how disease works in the real world. Absolutely incredible. A textbook, no one is going to go enjoy a textbook in their spare time. You won't find people, hold on a second, I'm going to show you the real numbers. Steam, Plague, Inc. Let's see how they're doing today. 24,000 reviews. Oh my goodness. If I recall, about 1,000 reviews lines up to about $1 million of revenue. Woo-wee! Small team making a Unity game. There's barely any 3D graphics in this game. And $24 million. How about that? How about if you came out of EECS 440 with a cool $24 million? Not too bad, is it? You'd recommend the course to your friends after that, wouldn't you? Not too bad. The team who made this game, I think they're in the UK. I think they got to visit with the Queen. They got to visit the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. We already talked about them over in the States. Not too bad for a small team. Compare learning about the basics of pandemics in a game like this versus learning about it in a introductory public health book, okay? The real power of video games and their ability to educate is that this game has reached 1,000 times, maybe 10,000 times more people and affected more people and built up more knowledge than this textbook, which is only going to be read by a specific few. The textbook still has its place because it's very dense with its information. It can get you a lot of very accurate information. But the game is what hooks you and helps you develop a passion for the topic. It's very easy to imagine that some of our future public health officials and scientists and researchers are going to be people who got that hunger, okay, for the topic from games like this. Their passion was ignited by Plague Inc. and maybe other interactive experiences. And then they got into the deeper details with textbooks and drier papers and research and stuff like that. If you're curious, Plague Inc. has their COVID-19 coronavirus DLC. And if that seems a little bit distasteful to you, it might ease the pain to know that it's entirely for charity. So it's a charity DLC, so you pay money for it, and then it goes to charity, I think, to affect people affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So here's something to think about, okay? Here's something to think about. We have products out there that educate, but they can kind of be broken into two categories, okay? Products that are mainly focused on engagement and products that are not, okay? Because over here on the left, you have products that are good at teaching. These are so incredibly good at engaging you. They can deliver information because they can hook you and keep you playing for a long time. You play these games, and then when you're done playing them for 10 hours straight, you end up on the wiki. You're reading the wiki all night long and learning more and learning deeper nuances of how they work and why they're designed the way that they are. And then we have other products that, they feel a bit more traditional. They're very clearly marketed as educational products. But I'll be honest with you, they're not that good at it, okay? Games that are, and products that are kind of built to foster engagement, they've done the first part right. They hook the audience really well, and then they can deliver information in a way that becomes very permanent in your memory. There are other products that when you are interacting with them, it really does feel like a burden, okay? We need professors to force you with carrot and stick. The carrot is so small. The stick has to be large to force students to engage with these unengaging products, these textbooks, very dry usually, for hours at a time, okay? We have to basically threaten the students to get them to learn with these products. I wish it weren't the case, okay? Minecraft is another great example of a game that is designed first and foremost to be a great, engaging, creativity-filled, expressive adventure. But yet, it is so incredibly good at teaching. It is so good that Minecraft is being used to teach in American public schools today. Don't believe me? I've got a video for you. I'm going to prove it to you. Let's take a look.
Minecraft is a video game that has a lot to offer. At its core, it's very open-ended. If you want to have an adventure, you can have an adventure. If you want to build something, you can build something. If you want to talk to your friends, you can talk to your friends. If you want to kill monsters, you can kill monsters. So the game appeals to a lot of people. It makes a lot of sense to take a game that is already fun, that is proven to be enjoyable to kids, and try to find a way to bring it to the classroom.
Imagine how long this took Brandon to make. I know. He just drops you from all the way up there.
You know, my school, as well as many others, have been struggling with the issue of how to teach digital citizenship, which is internet ethics, online safety, privacy, research. I mean, it's everything. Because as our kids were getting into middle school and high school, we had a lot of frankly, ugly incidents happen. And so, the school's administration, along with the computer department, decided we really need to start teaching these concepts earlier. We're going to treat the game world as part of the classroom. It is a classroom. It's just in the digital space. Almost every single kid finally kind of came around and sort of and got it.
Go ahead and let's start off by getting in, following the instructions that are up onto the board. Okay, our students, pick your avatar.
Pixel Pushers, as student project here at the ETC, is working with Minecraft EDU to develop a series of software features for their software. So our programmers are working on a quiz block and a lesson review tool to include in the Minecraft EDU software. While we're also working on researching how and what you can best teach with Minecraft. You can really teach a wide array of things that aren't immediately obvious.
The kids have to think it's fun. Otherwise, what's the point? There's plenty of educational games out there, and frankly, very few of them have been very satisfying for me. I never want to use it in my class because it smells like school.
Make sure you're using the right material. Make sure you're not using gravel for the parts that are in between the pillars there, because the gravel will fall. Let's check out group 2. Oh, nice. You finished. You're almost done with one of the hardest shapes. Good job.
In our research, we started out asking what can Minecraft teach? As we actually started playtesting with students, we found that might be the wrong question, and that it's more interesting to ask how can Minecraft teach?
The virtual world of Minecraft, I think, is fun and powerful, for these kids, and I think they get it in a way that some of their teachers don't sometimes.
I think the most important thing for someone coming to Minecraft from an educational perspective is to just play the game, just get a feel for how the game works, and then perhaps even more importantly, let the students play the game.
You have to think about where 21st century kids are living. I mean, they come here in school, but they're texting each other on the way home, and then they're on Facebook, and then they're playing games together. It's all a continuum. They don't separate the conversations that they have typed into Minecraft with the ones that they have in the lunchroom. There's such excitement around this game, getting that excitement into schools all over the world. The more voices we have coming up with ideas and creating content and sharing content, the better.
You heard it from an actual grade school teacher, right? I think it's best to find a game that is engaging, a game that people already love, a game that's fun, a game that doesn't smell like school. Why? Because then we can engage them, and we have to hook them. We have to engage them before we can deliver our information. And if we can deliver any information we want. By the way, this is how most media is designed. Okay, I love to point this out to my 494 students when they're making their trailers. And you're going to make your trailers in this course too, 440. What's the last film that you've seen? Well, maybe not in this course, okay? What's the last film that you've watched, just kind of for fun? Yes?
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls. I have not seen that film in like 10 years. How does it begin? Can you remind me? You don't remember? Okay. Here's the thing. Most films do not begin with the main characters sitting down and having a 20-minute long chat about the state of the world and the mechanics of the world and what we need to do and blah, 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 and this, right? That is dry information. That is very important, but you can't lead with it, or you'll bore the tears out of your audience, they will disengage, and then you failed to deliver the information anyway. How most novels, games, and films begin is with one of the most exciting action set pieces they've got. Sometimes it's dramatic, it's usually tension-filled, there's mystery in the air, things are moving quickly, the stakes seem high. And that's to engage and hook the audience. Before then, we move to a quieter, slower scene that always follows, where some more boring but important things happen. You must hook your audience. You engage them, you get them wondering, geez, what is going on? I gotta watch more. And then you have them hooked, and you can then deliver slower and more boring knowledge. If you've played any of my games, you'll know this is something I kind of stink at. You have to invest an enormous amount in that first level and get it to be crazy, exciting, thrilling, something unusual. And I usually don't make that investment, and so the beginning just feels like not that exciting, okay? That's something I gotta fix in my own games. And I think I'm gonna try and do that soon. But here, another thing I want to point out that's really cool, a lot of the speakers that you get interviews with, some of them are, teachers in the class, but many of them are actually graduate students. Do you know at what university? Here we go. Okay. Mr. Hildebrand is a graduate student at Carnegie Mellon University, and in particular, their video game development department, the Entertainment Technology Center. I've sent some students here, and they report amazing things. It's one of the best programs in the United States. It's a very interesting program. I've heard one of their required intro courses for everyone, regardless of your discipline, is an intro to acting, improv acting course. Why? They really want their graduates to understand how you communicate ideas to people and how you engage with people. Whether that is, giving a pitch for your next game product to the bigwig executive, or whether that is making and designing a game that needs to communicate some important ideas to the players so they know what's going on, okay? Anyway, if you go to graduate school for game dev or VR or AR, you very well might be trying to find unique applications of games and VR and AR to help educate people. This is a very real thing. And you can get your PhD, you can get your master's degree doing this kind of stuff. If I go and get a PhD someday, I think some people assume I have one. I do not. I have just a master's. If I go get a PhD one day, it'll probably be with autograders, autograding, and how to make that as engaging as possible. You can tell if you're in the game engine architecture course, I've been trying a lot of things already to make the autograder pleasant to work with, and sometimes even a bit funny. I put in general, with my autograder and with my games, I put in a lot of effort to make it entertaining when you fail. And that is to try and take away the sting of failure, which is a big issue with games and a big reason why people quit playing a game. So I want to show you a super cool application of VR in particular. VR is kind of unique in its ability to make you feel a sense of presence. It is extraordinarily expensive for individuals to visit Mount Everest and to climb up it, let alone imagining the training, the transit, the preparation, the insurance, the safety risks, the guidance that would need to be procured in order to bring an entire classroom to Mount Everest. With VR, though, we can sort of bring you to Mount Everest now. We can't bring you there in terms of your sense of cold and your sense of the wind passing by. But we can bring you there in terms of your vision, in terms of a little bit of what you hear, okay, and some of the decisions you have to make while on the mountain. Let's take a look at Everest VR.
On this special expedition to Everest and VR, we invite you to journey across the mountain, where you'll discover interactive audio and visual guides that explore the environment, history, and the physical challenges that climbers face on Mount Everest. We hope these stories inspire and drive you to embark on adventures of your own.
So this product, Everest VR, it has mixed reviews, and if you read most of the reviews, it relates to the pricing. It's kind of expensive, and it's not a very long experience. But if you look at what the product actually is, it is a virtual recreation of Mount Everest that allows you to walk around, travel up the mountain. It is also a product that uses a lot of 360-degree video, which is really impressive stuff. This looks a bit low quality here. I think it's higher quality when you play the game. But you can actually, they had a team bring 360-degree camera recorders up the mountain with them at different checkpoints. So you can actually look around and you can see them trying to get things set up and trying to recover and talking about their decisions and the situation they face. Extremely cool stuff. And because it is virtual, they can also present you with information at relevant times. So as you begin to approach the death zone, that concept can be explained in a way that's going to be a lot more just in time, okay? A lot more relevant to what you're doing in the game. And probably it's going to stick with you a lot longer and more permanently than just reading a textbook, okay? Instead of reading about some people who walked up Mount Everest, you get to feel like you are doing that, even if that feeling isn't complete, okay? Here's another one, and I actually think this is more impressive. The reviews are much better, and this is actually designed more like a game from what I've been able to figure out. This is Titanic VR. The Titanic is at the bottom of the ocean, okay? And so we cannot visit it. But what if a submarine could take us there? What if we could relive the Titanic when it was actually floating? Understand what brought people to the Titanic and what made people want to take that risk. Okay, let's give it a watch. Titanic VR. This one has good reviews and quite a few of them.
She's a huge thing for I thought she was something extraordinary. My God, she was a lost word in luxury.
Head for that ship on the horizon. Transfer your passengers and tell their captain to come at once. We require urgent.
We'll head straight for another boat.
Bring up, children! Final call!
Right, it's time to go.
No! My daddy! No!
She had everything that you could think of it. She was a beautiful ship.
So this game is much better received than Everest VR. It's longer, has more content. What's interesting about this experience is that it is designed with some tried and true game design. Instead of just kind of walking up a mountain and you see some exhibits and stuff like a museum tour, this game is designed a bit more like a Metroidvania, where you go down into the ship, you are in diving gear, you can only progress through certain parts of the ship. You find artifacts, those trigger memories, I think, that kind of reveal to you what it was like before the crash happened. And then you also make upgrades using the things you find, and that allows you to progress further through the ship, unlocking more and more mysteries as you go up to a finale, okay? Extremely cool. And this is one of those experiences that is designed first and foremost with the question of how do we engage people? How do we tell a good story that people will resonate with and understand, and that keeps them engaged, wanting to progress further and know more? And that is an extremely good setup to start delivering genuine historical information. And of course, there's some fan fiction in here. There's some fiction in here as well. But that is a price to pay for getting people engaged so you can deliver real information. This is one that I actually played, Kellogg's Gut Bacteria Reef. If it seems a bit random that a cereal company would be making VR games, well, they hired a company called Nakatomi to do this. And it is a little bit of a corporate propaganda piece. But it's also pretty interesting and pretty fun and engaging. It's short and it's also free. I think you can get it on Steam if you want to. And when I played it on those machines right here in the Viz Studio. And I want to show you this as well. It is a game about traveling inside of someone's gut and learning about the different bacteria that exists in the gut and how you need to keep that bacteria kind of healthy and fed. Not all bacteria is bad for you. It sits there in your digestive tract and it helps you break down things that your body can then use. And I suppose Kellogg's has some cereal that's like high in fiber or something to like help with this. I actually don't know why they made this game, but let's take a look at the trailer. The reviews are good. It's surprising. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. So pretty cool stuff, small game. And again, there are a lot of brands and there are a lot of companies out there that don't really have the ability to make their own games or VR or AR experiences. Companies like Nakatomi, I think they're a kind of a consulting firm, a marketing firm. They hire people with these general purpose game dev and storytelling skills. And then they go work for a lot of different companies. So pretty cool stuff. Okay, so the NSF, this is a big organization in the United States. Do you know what it stands for? If you go to grad school, they're a big deal.
The National Science Foundation. National Science
Foundation. They are perhaps most famous for their big suite of grants, their big pile of money that they are allocated and that they in turn allocate to research projects. Maybe if you become a professor or research professor, I'm a teaching professor, so I don't do much with research. But if you become a full research professor, then you deal a lot with them. You're often writing proposals. You are trying to get grants accepted and funded so that you can then do interesting research, publish interesting results, and you can hire more grad students. You can pay for lab equipment and stuff like that. And so NSF awards money to different teams all the time. This one caught my eye. It's a product and team called Prisms of Reality. And you can look up their NSF kind of code right there. It's supposed to be an algebra learning game for students to develop experience with exponential functions. And the application for this is a global pandemic, which seems pretty timely. If you look up the project, it looks like it was a total disaster. They ended up selling it for $8-9, and this has no reviews. Like even my indie games with really poor marketing have way more than that. And so I want to show you this trailer, and I want you to first look at what can get money for the NSF. Also ask yourself, how much money do you think they got? And also take note of, could you make something like this if I gave you a year and a bunch of money? Okay, let's watch.
Good afternoon. Today I am declaring a state of emergency in our city. Over the last couple of weeks, we have seen an alarming rise in the number of infections from an unknown virus.
This Prism's algebra learning game enables kids, parents, and teachers to deepen their understanding of exponential functions through a problem that's affecting all of our lives today, a global pandemic. Your critical mission on this task force is to determine the number of weeks until our hospitals reach capacity.
Okay, so kind of an interesting, VR experience simulation. They say they're trying to teach algebra and how exponential functions work, trying to teach some stuff about pandemic, kind of like, Plague Inc. style. You're trying to solve this general mathematical situation where you're trying to figure out at what point hospitals will become overwhelmed if things continue to spread. Okay, how do you think you could make something like this? If I gave you if I give you a year, can you make something like this in a team? Okay? I think you could. I think a lot of you could. How about, would you do it if I gave you a year and $250,000? You'd work pretty hard, okay? That's a decent salary, even if we split it among two people, right? Okay, so the NSF, I think, sometimes gets taken to school on occasion, all right? And I do get a little bit salty about my taxes going to projects that are a little bit underwhelming. I think my students could do a way better job. And I prefer my tax money go to you instead of randos who then put out a mediocre product. All right, you could beat that. You could wallop that game. Oh my goodness. All right, I won't get too salty about it here though. What about augmented reality? So AR, I've talked a lot about VR, I've talked a lot about game dev generally, traditional game dev. What about AR? Let's see something cool about AR. Well, I think this is pretty cool. This is a historical AR tour set in Richmond, Virginia. Now, Richmond, Virginia is a city that doesn't really come up very often in conversation these days. But there was a time when it was the city to talk about in American history in the mid-1800s, if I recall. Do you know why?
It was the capital of the Confederacy.
Yeah, it was the capital of the Confederate States of America. During the Civil War. Ironically, it was super close to the capital of the United States of America during that war, Washington, D.C. They're not that far away. If you wonder why the Confederates chose their capital to be so close to the enemy capital, apparently, when I looked this up, apparently it was because Richmond was such an important and rare industrial city for the South, which didn't have many industrialized cities, that they decided if they lost Richmond, they would just lose the war. So let's make it our capital, which will boost its defenses. Kind of an interesting kind of war logistics A bit of pragmatism. Anyway, that's not what we care about right now. I want to show you this video, and then we'll quickly finish up the lecture, okay?
In terms of wearable AR, this is the only place in the country where you can find this application of this technology to the Confederate Monuments controversy.
A Richmond-based company is using augmented reality along with audio for a new tour about Monument Avenue's history. One which took center stage this past summer with the removal of all but one Confederate monument. Greg Burkheiser is a cultural heritage lawyer as well as the co-founder and CEO of Art Class, which provides historic tours for over 50 sites across the globe, but is first in RVA.
We design augmented reality software that allows you to put on transparent smart glasses and walk around and see layered over your view of the real-world landscape all kinds of digital magic. The technology acts like a time machine, takes you from the present back to the past, and then back to the present again.
The tour is conducted by Lexi Cleveland.
Because I love Richmond, this is my hometown, this is where my family's from, so being able to share the story of Richmond in a more honest way is very important to me.
Cleveland is also a public historian and vice president of client services of Art Class, who led the development of the project. Here's what she says people can expect in this unique experience.
So they're going to look at the monument, all they do is press and hold this button. That'll start the content, and different stops have different types of content. So some of them have like 360 surround, so you actually have to like look around to like see everything. Some things have like billboards like placed in various locations. Some things are like front on.
The tour that lasts about 90 minutes is being offered for free. That's because both Burkheiser and Cleveland say this was a way to give back. But more importantly, they say they hope after the experience, this will help the city move forward.
Because the story of Monument Avenue is not finished. It's evolving. The communities that have Confederate monuments are in the midst of a very serious conversation, and we want that to be fact-based.
We're all neighbors, so that human element of being able to have a conversation with your neighbors is important, because then you can ask questions, you can have conversations instead of just kind of seeing some content and being like, well, where do I go from here? I still have questions.
And some of the things you'll be able to see in the AR tour include stereograph photos that are over 150 years old, showing the devastation of Richmond after Confederates burned it on their way in their retreat, as well as the removal of the monuments that were taken down this past summer. Now, if you are interested in taking a tour, just visit artglassgroup.com.
Right? So AR stands for augmented reality. It augments the world around us, but it can be used to reveal the world around us and also to help us understand the history of the world around us. And there's a lot of interesting things that have happened in the past in many different places, like Pokemon Go, an app that is really kind of getting you to explore your community a bit more, to understand what is there, with the Pokestops, with the gyms tailored and attached to interesting institutions and locations and statues. Okay, points of interest. We have here an app that allows you to see the way that the city used to be and a lot of the interesting events in the city and a lot of the discussions happening. So very, very cool stuff. And right, Pokemon Go is kind of a very similar situation. Here's a takeaway, okay? We have a lot of traditional means of teaching, and they work, but we want things to work better, and we're looking for new tools to do this. Compare textbooks, okay? Compare a first responder training textbook to what XR can give us today in 2026. Not just the ability to read about what can go wrong when you are trying to fix a gas leak on a residential street, but actually showing you what can go wrong when you go to actually do that, okay? We can use not only the immersion that VR affords us, but we can use the dynamic nature, the randomness, okay, the unpredictability of what software in general can provide to us, all right? You can read about what you should do, or we can put you in the situation, randomize what's going to happen so you can't just memorize things. You need to react, you need to respond, you need to understand what's going on, right? And we can provide a much deeper level of education much faster. We can monitor your progress much more tightly, and we can hopefully keep you engaged much better and much more long-term by using experiences that actually care about engagement and game design. Okay? So, a question for you, and then we will wrap it up. I'm going to describe two games to you. They're both the same game, but they're two different design philosophies. And I want to ask, which one would you rather engage with? Oregon Trail is a historical survival simulator set in the 1850s where players must plan carefully and think critically if they want to survive a perilous and desperate journey across America's western frontier. Versus Oregon Trail is a historical quiz game where players answer questions about the 1850s American migration to score points. Which one are you going to play? Yeah, okay. It's not even a question. One of these smells like school. It smells like the back of a chapter in a textbook. The other sounds like a harrowing game that you might actually want to take a crack at and see how well you do, how long you can survive. The Oregon Trail was created in 1971 by Don Rowich, a friend of mine. He used to speak in 494. He was a new teacher. He was teaching, and he needed to teach a unit on manifest destiny. This is the mid-1850s, in which basically America's land holdings had expanded, like basically all the way to the West Coast and to the Pacific Ocean. The problem America faced was that just because you on paper own some land doesn't mean you own that land, okay? You can ask Mexico about that. Sadly, you can ask a lot of the Indian tribes about that. And so Congress incentivized Americans to move across the country and spread via the Homestead Act, which said, if you move out west and agree to farm a big plot of land, you can claim that plot of land for free. And in that era, owning land was wealth. And that still is the case today to a certain extent. So it's a very important time, very visceral and oftentimes sad moment in time. And Don Rowich needed to teach it. The problem is they didn't have any textbooks on this topic. But they did have a mainframe computer. Okay, imagine that. And so Don decided he was going to program the game Oregon Trail, and he was going to make it the first actual roguelike. And actually, it was probably Rogue before Rogue existed. It had permadeath, it had survival mechanics, it was randomized, you were traveling everywhere, you didn't know what was going to happen, you're collecting items. That sounds like a roguelike to me, but it came out before Rogue, I think. Anyway, it was created in 2 weeks, and the students went crazy for it, okay? In fact, he told us at GDC, I think, other professors, other teachers in his school were trying to find excuses to bring in their students into his classroom so they could play Oregon Trail. So, if you are interested in this topic, we have a course dedicated to it, Education 333, Professor Fishman's course, and you can play Oregon Trail on your own if you want to. Next time, when we come back on Monday, we are all going to Oregon together as a team, as a wagon trail community, and we're going to see if we can make it, all right? So look forward to traveling on the Oregon Trail with us on Monday. And I hope, if nothing else, the value of education has been made a bit more clear, and game dev's connection to it and XR development's connection to education has been made more clear. I'll tell you this, in the community of educators, there's a lot of people who are looking to video games and looking to XR. They're just grasping, they're trying to find anything that can help us deliver the information we need you to know in a more engaging way. Because engagement is a really tricky thing. Making a good video game is really, really hard. And all us educators are trying to do that. That's actually the core of our jobs. I take education as half delivering knowledge and half entertainment. The entertainment half exists to make your life more pleasant, yes, but mainly to hook you so that I can deliver the information I need to in a way that will help you remember it and give you the morale boost and the spirit boost to push through difficult things, okay? That's why I create my lectures in the way that I do. All right? Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments? We went 10 minutes over. Thank you for your patience. Everyone, I will see you on Monday for our journey, our field trip out to Oregon, okay? Until then, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Congratulations on finishing your P2, and I hope you will start to think about your P3. Remember to do your P2 postmortem. It will ask you about your ideas for P3 on that assignment. And think about who you want to work with for Project 3. Who you work with is one of the most important decisions you could ever make. Okay? You can leave it up to chance. I don't really recommend it, but if it does come down to it, you'll probably be fine. Okay? So don't panic too much. All right, everyone. I'll see you next time. Take care. Okay, everyone online, good to see you. Thanks to you for hanging out with us. If we had any audio issues, thank you for your patience with those. And we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.